Hey YouTube. Um Welcome to my channel. Thank you for clicking on this video. I'm sorry that I look like this. I've been sick for about 2 weeks now. I had got over I guess you could say it was strep throat. I don't know what it was. My throat was sore. I did not feel good. I had just got over that, and then I ended up getting sick again. So yeah. And excuse me, I'm sorry, my face looks horrible. My hair looks horrible. I'm sorry. But came to bring y'all another story time. My life is, I don't even know. But this is the story time of my stepmother. Well, I met my stepmother back in 2004, 2000. It was about, yeah, I think around 2004, 2005. A little bit after, no, I think I met her in 2003. I'm not sure. It was one of those times. It was a long time ago. I knew it was before, I think it was before Katrina hit. Or I think, no, it was about 2005. A little bit after Katrina hit. I live in Louisiana. I live in Monroe. So we live a little bit up further from New Orleans. So we got part of the storm pretty bad, but we didn't get it like they did. So I met her, and you know, my dad used to talk to her on the phone a lot while he was at work. And it was times where I would go to work with him, and he would be on the phone with her, and he was like, talk to her. And I spoke to her, whatever, and I was asking her, what's your favorite color and stuff like that. I was young. I think I was about 10 or 11, somewhere around that age. I was very young. It's going to be a part 1 and a part 2 because I don't want it to be too long. So I met her, well, I was talking on the phone with her, whatever, and then it was a day that I finally had met her. She used to stay in this neighborhood that I grew up in. It's called Booker T. If you're from Monroe, you know what Booker T is. So, she stayed there at first in Booker T. And I seen her, and I was like, oh, okay. She's pretty. She seems nice. She has 2 boys. So I met her first, and then I met her boys afterwards. It was okay. I spoke to her, gave her a hug and everything. But me, if you know me, I'm a socially awkward person. So I don't really, when you meet me, you may think that I don't like you or come off as rude, but that's just me. I'm a socially awkward person, and I don't really know how to meet people or speak to people that I don't already know. That's something that I have to work on. But she told my dad, she was like, oh, I don't think she likes me very well. And I'm like, well, I thought that I gave a good impression, you know what I'm saying? I didn't know, that she thought that way until my dad told me. And I was like, no, I don't have a problem with her because my mom and my dad been divorced a long time ago. So it's not like I was like, oh, she trying to replace me as trying to replace my mom as my, Anyway, so I didn't have no problem with her in the beginning. So where things started taking a turn is when, like, she would always say something about me to my dad. Like, it's like she would always say, oh, she act like she didn't want to speak, and she seemed like she don't want to do, like, already off the bat. Because let me tell you something. The history between me and my dad, we was close. We were best friends. I was a daddy's girl. Every time you see my daddy, you saw me. Me and my daddy was always close. I would be, when I was younger, I would be bad and get whoopings for like little stuff that I would do in school. But after that, it really didn't matter. Like, I never held it against him at that time because, if you did wrong, you get disciplined. So I would just, take my whoopings and be done. And me and my dad would be back close. We was always close. So when he met her, things started turning for the worse. So well, I didn't have a problem with her. She would just always tell my dad that I would always have an issue with her. I always seemed like I didn't want to speak, and it was nothing. I never felt that way. And she was like, he just, she would just always say stuff, and then she was like, oh, she act like she didn't want to meet my kids. I was older than her two boys. Okay. At the time when I met her kids, I think they was like 7 or 8. The oldest one was like 7 or 8, and the young one was like 4. I think 4 or 5. And I'm older, and I'm a girl. I didn't want to play with boys. I just didn't. I just, always have been a loner. That's just been me. I like to be to myself, and my dad should understand that because we are just alike. Me and my dad are alike in so many ways. So, I didn't have no problem seeing her. But then it went from me visiting her to me spending the night at her house until the next day, knowing that I used to dance. I was a spiritual dancer in church. I was heavily involved in church. I was a spiritual dancer. I was in the choir. So on weekends or whatever, when we have to perform at a church, we would have dance practice. Excuse my voice. I've been sick for a while. But it was a bug on me. Ugh. So, I didn't want to be there because I had dance practice and stuff like that. So I was living with my aunt. I never really stayed with my mama. My mom wasn't really involved in my life. She's not really in my life. So yeah, I was staying with my aunt and my dad started getting into it at that time because he would always want me to come around. Excuse me. He would always want me to come around, him and her. So that's when I started having a problem. I'm like, well, why you taking me away from my routines that I do? I have dance practice and this, that, and the other, and you taking me away. That's when I started having a problem. So, I didn't complain. I didn't say much because, I was scared of my dad. I didn't want to get a whooping. So I would always look sad and everything, and he would get mad because I, would be sad and like I didn't want to come with him. They would always go out of town and, go to little trips or whatever. And that would be okay. I just didn't want to go. So I guess she took it upon herself to make it seem like I didn't want to be around her. It wasn't like that. Excuse me. So it went from spending the night until one day he took me to this place called Presidential Estates. If you're from Monroe, you know what Presidential Estates is. It's a little bit outside of Monroe. So he showed me this house. He put up at this house. He was like, once they done building this house, we gonna move in here, and I got a room for you too. That's when I got upset because I'm like, wait a minute. I don't want to move here. I don't want to move with y'all. I don't mind visiting, but I want to stay with my auntie. I didn't want to move. I was like, no. And in my head, I was like, ooh, I hope it take a long time for this house to be built. Which it took a long time, but not as long as I wanted it to take. So at that time, I was going to Lincoln Elementary. That's what it was called, when I was younger. So that's why I was going to school at. And I was okay at my school. I had a good teacher. I was in the 5th grade. So I had a good teacher. I loved my teacher. Like, I, liked my school. So when he was telling me, oh, you gonna move in with us, he constantly kept telling me that. So it made me cry a lot because I didn't want to move in. I didn't want to stay. So I remember it was a time when I used to live on in Booker T. I didn't stay that far from her. I stayed right across the street from my school. Our house had burned down. That's a whole nother story time in itself. But our house had burned down. I had inhaled a lot of smoke, so I was sick. They didn't take me to the doctor. They didn't get me checked out by, a paramedic. I just inhaled a lot of smoke. I lost all my clothes. I lost all my toys. I lost everything. I know y'all like, you in the fifth grade play with toys? Yeah, I had toys. So, my dad was like, well, do you want to come stay with us then? And I was like, no, I want to stay in the hotel. Because we had got a hotel or whatever. So, we stayed in the hotel for a while until we had got somewhere to stay. So, our cousin let us move into his house while he stayed in Illinois. And he had a big house. And that was my first time having my own room. I never had my own room growing up. So that was my first time having my own room there. And I don't know what y'all thinking, like, well, why you didn't want to go stay with your dad? You had your own room there. You don't understand. It's like no matter what I did, I would always get in trouble. And I didn't do anything. Like, if I was just sitting on the couch watching TV, I kid you not, I would get in trouble. Because they were like, oh, well, why you always sitting on the couch right there? Or when you go outside, you be by yourself. Like, that's just me. I used to play with them or whatever, but it's just, I didn't want to. I just didn't want to. Like, I can't be playing with kids that's way younger than me. And I'm older, you know what I'm saying? At that point, I was finna go to junior high. And, I was becoming a teenager. Like, it was a weird time for me. So, like I said, we had moved it's a house up the street from where I'm staying now. It was a big house. I was excited. I was like, I have my own room. I can decorate it how I want to. I can do this. I can do that. Whatever I want to do. I felt freedom because I had my own room. So, he constantly kept telling me, oh, you gonna move in with us. And it was like sometimes he would come and take me during the weekend, and I didn't want to go. And my aunt would tell my dad, oh, she don't want to go. She don't want to go. And he'd be like, oh, well, that's my child. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. My child. And I was crying, and he felt like my aunt was putting me up against him. But it wasn't that. It's just I didn't want to be around him. It was always this vibe of I'm not wanted there. Like, she would always have these little smirky attitudes, like when she would speak to me. And just would, like, have a whole attitude, like being a bitch, to me. And that's the truth. Like, she'd always, and, just doing little smart stuff. So I was like, I don't want to be around this lady. Whatever it was, I just didn't want to be around her. So, that kind of put me and my dad at odds because we didn't want to, like, he would always fuss at me. And I would always get a whooping because of stuff that she say. Like, if she be like, oh, she seems like she don't want to be around me, I would get a whooping. So, I just didn't want to be around. And I didn't tell my auntie. I really didn't tell anybody. I just kind of did it on my own. Like, I just kind of, like, handled it on my own. Like, by myself. So I just would stay to myself. And, like, they didn't understand why I didn't want to be around. And, like, I finally tried to come out and explain it to my dad. But my daddy didn't. It's like he didn't get it because he was so in love with this woman. I guess that he felt like she couldn't do no wrong. So, my dad was hypnotized. He was just gone. So, to me, I kind of felt like my daddy, chose her over me. And that's what made me and him it was a lot of other things too. And I'm going to get to that. So there was this one particular time when spending the night went from spending the night to pack all your clothes. You finna move in, and you finna come live with me. And I cried, and I cried, and I constantly kept crying. Like, the school that I was going to, I had friends. Finally had friends. And that was something new for me. Excuse me, I live by the train, and it's always on the track. So that was something foreign to me because I never really been the type of person to have a lot of friends growing up. I was so awkward. But it's like, I had friends. I felt like I could do whatever I wanted to. Like, not like that, but I felt like, I could actually do the things that I wanted. Like, dance at school and stuff. So, nobody really at school really understood what I was going through. Like, it was times where I was at school crying because I was like, I have to move in with my daddy today, and I don't want to go home. And they would call my auntie at work or whatever, and I would talk to her on the phone. I'm like, he said I have to move in and I don't want to go. And she was like, don't cry, because if you start crying, you're going to get a whooping. And I was like, at that point, I didn't care. I was like, I don't care. I just don't want to go. Like, I was trying to run away from home and everything. So, I had to go home and pack all my clothes. My auntie didn't want me to go. Like, her and my dad got into this big argument. Like, sometimes it would work and he would leave, but then he would come right back and be like, you finna move in. Hold on, excuse me. I'm straining. So, like, I would have to pack my clothes up anyway and leave. So the first time I moved in, it was so long ago I can't hardly remember things, but the first time I moved in there, my family and my, church members told me to keep a diary, to journalize how I feel. I was a writer. I used to always write stories, write poems, anything, songs, anything. I used to write all the time. So they was like, don't stop writing. Keep writing. Just write how you feel. Express how you feel. And I said, okay. So, sorry. So I wrote down, journalized how I felt. I kept all my frustrations in that book because I couldn't say nothing. I was a child. I couldn't express how I feel. I couldn't express the emotions and the anger that I felt. So I wrote it down. I didn't write nothing bad about nobody. I was just like, I want to go home. I hate being here. I just feel out of the loop. I don't feel inside the loop because her family was there. Like, her mom and dad stayed across the street. And, they tried to be nice to me. And it was okay. But they didn't like my auntie or whatever. And because they didn't like my aunt, made me not like them. Because they would sit around and talk about my auntie. And my aunt was like my second mother. And I would fight over her. I would kill over that woman. If somebody do my auntie wrong, you gotta deal with me. I'm only 4'11", and I know that's hard for some of y'all to believe, but I'm very short, and I do not play about my auntie. I will beat somebody up. I will kill over her. So they sat down and talked about my aunt, and everybody just sat down and laughed about it. And my dad did too. And did he forget that after his mother died, my auntie took care of him and his brother. He have a twin brother. And he must forgot. She was the one that raised him. So I wrote down in my journal all the time. I expressed how I felt. And one day her son came in the room and found my journal. And in that journal, I expressed how I felt and everything. I felt out of the loop. And he went in the room and he took it. I would often get in trouble because of things that the little boy did, the youngest little boy. Like, he would throw trash in my room and I get in trouble for it. I would get a whooping. Like, if I sat down on the couch and didn't say nothing to nobody, I got a whooping. Because they told me I was sitting down in corners and not saying nothing to nobody. I didn't have nothing to say. I wanted to go home. And I tried my hardest to talk to that lady. I tried my hardest to bond with her. And she would still just cop an attitude with me and be like, and then like just say smart stuff to me. Like, she told me I was dumb, I was stupid, I was sloppy. Like, she used to tell me stuff all the time. And back then I wasn't fat. Like, I had a shape. Like, I had hips and butt, and my chest grew at a young age. So men and boys would look at me and I didn't know. I was young. That wasn't on my mind. But I guess they was trying to keep an extra watch on me because I had a shape. But she was heavy set. She's a heavy set person. So I guess she was jealous. I don't know. But she used to call me sloppy, and that used to make my confidence go down. There's more stories on the way. A lot of stuff started happening. A lot of crazy stuff. From like me being sent to group homes and things. But I'll explain it in the next video because this one is getting too long.